The air inside the arena was thick with pressure. The crowd was loud, buzzing with energy. But behind the walls, away from the screaming fans and shining lights, something far more intense was happening. Miguel stood alone in the empty dojo, his eyes closed, trying to find his focus. He was minutes away from the biggest match of his life. But just as he steadied his breath, the door creaked open, and there she was. Sam. Her face wasn't angry. It wasn't sad. It was something else, something honest. What happened next shocked even Miguel. With the final match moments away, Sam did the one thing no one expected. She kissed him. Their story wasn't simple. Miguel and Sam had been through it all: friendship, heartbreak, fights, and moments of peace. It started back when Cobra Kai was just returning. Miguel was the strong but kind-hearted fighter who believed in second chances. Sam was the girl trying to balance loyalty to her family with the chaos in her heart. Their connection was natural, but the world around them was never calm enough to let it grow without trouble. In season 1, it was sweet and new. They laughed, trained, and helped each other become stronger. But as the dojo split and old rivalries returned, everything got more complicated. Sam's ties to Daniel and Miyagi-Do pulled her one way. Miguel's journey with Johnny and Cobra Kai pulled him the other. And then came Tori. Tori Nichols changed the game. When she entered Miguel's life, it wasn't just about love. It was about survival. She was fierce, fearless, and completely different from Sam. When Miguel was injured and broken, Tori stood by him. But deep down, even she knew Miguel's heart was never fully hers. It always found its way back to Sam. Season after season, Miguel and Sam danced around their feelings. They had good moments, like when they trained together or when they had real conversations about their fears. But they also had painful ones, like the school fight, or when Miguel saw Sam kissing Robbie. Every time they got close, something pulled them apart, and yet they never fully let go. By season 6, something had changed. They were no longer kids figuring things out. They had scars, they had history, and they had finally started to understand what they meant to each other. When Silver fell and Cobra Kai's name was damaged, things finally seemed to settle. Sam and Miguel had one quiet moment under the stars in the final episode, where they didn't speak much, but their silence said everything. Still, no promises were made. No plans for the future, just one long look and a small smile. And then the final tournament was announced. Now, in season 7, everything is moving fast. The biggest martial arts tournament in the world is about to begin. Champions from across the globe have arrived. The spotlight is bigger than ever. For Miguel, this could be his final shot to prove himself not just as a fighter, but as someone who belongs on that stage. For Sam, it's about facing her own fears, her own doubts, and her feelings for Miguel once and for all. In the days leading up to the match, Miguel trained hard. He stayed late, pushed his limits, and tried not to think about anything else. But something was different. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Sam's face. Not the Sam from the fights or the drama. The Sam who once looked at him like he was her world. Sam, on the other hand, was fighting her own battle. Her parents were worried. Tori was distant, and deep inside, she knew she had left things unsaid. She remembered how Miguel defended her, how he always believed in her, even when she didn't believe in herself. And now, with just one night left before the fight, she realized something simple but powerful. If she didn't say something now, she might never get the chance again. That night, as Miguel sat alone in the dojo trying to block out the noise of the world, the door opened quietly. He didn't even need to look. He knew it was her. "I didn't come here to distract you," Sam said, her voice soft. Miguel turned, his eyes searching hers. "Then why?" Sam stepped closer, her breath shaky. "Because I had to say something, before it's too late." Their eyes locked. The weight of everything they'd been through hung between them, the fights, the tears, the memories, and then just like that, Sam leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't long or dramatic. It was real. It was simple. And it said everything. Outside, the announcer called for the fighters. But inside, in that quiet space where emotions lived louder than any crowd, Miguel finally felt ready. The morning of the final tournament didn't feel like any other day. The sun rose over the valley, but it didn't bring peace. Instead, it cast a golden glow over a battlefield waiting to be claimed. Crowds filled the stands. Cameras were everywhere. Sponsors lined the arena with bright banners and fake smiles. But for Miguel, everything faded into the background except the memory of Sam's kiss. His mind was racing, not with moves or combos, but with emotions. That kiss had shaken something loose inside him. It wasn't just about winning anymore. It was about proving that everything he had fought for, every bruise, every heartbreak, every late night in the dojo, meant something. But love is tricky in a world built on strikes and counters. Was he stronger now, or distracted? Meanwhile, Sam sat in the stands, surrounded by familiar faces who had no idea what had just happened. Her heart pounded louder than the cheering crowd. She tried to stay calm, to act normal, but her hands kept trembling. She looked down at the mat. Miguel was stretching, silent, focused, or at least trying to be. She knew that look. He was pretending to be fine. But inside, he was on fire. In the locker room earlier, things were tense. Johnny paced back and forth, giving last-minute advice to Miguel, but even he could sense something was off. "You good?" he asked. Miguel nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just focused." Johnny didn't buy it, but he knew better than to push. Daniel entered a few minutes later, offering words of balance and control, telling Miguel to fight with honor. But Miguel barely heard them. All he could think about was that moment with Sam. That one kiss. That one spark before the storm. The Cobra Kai fighters were not the same as before. With Silver gone, they had become more ruthless, less about style, more about survival. Their new champion was a brutal, quiet force, tall, lean, and cold. He hadn't spoken much, but his hits in the semi-finals had been deadly. He didn't fight with anger. He fought like a machine. And now he had his sights on Miguel. Backstage, Tori stood near the Cobra Kai team. She watched Miguel from afar, unreadable. She had known him in ways no one else had. She had fought beside him and against him. And though they had moved on, a small flicker of something still lived in her. Maybe it was jealousy, maybe it was respect. But whatever it was, she could tell. Miguel wasn't just fighting an opponent today. He was fighting himself. Announcers boomed through the stadium. Final match, Miguel Diaz from Eagle Fang Miyagi-Do versus Kairos Kenji from the new Cobra Kai. The crowd erupted. Lights flashed. Smoke machines filled the air. Music pounded through the speakers. This was it. Miguel walked out slowly, every step echoing in his chest. He glanced up at the stands. Sam was there, eyes locked on him. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She just looked. And that was enough. He felt it again. The fire, the storm, the reason he fought. As he reached the mat, his opponent stood already waiting. Kairos didn't blink. He didn't smirk. He just bowed slightly, his hands already loose and ready. The referee stepped forward, explained the rules, then looked at both fighters. "Begin on my mark." But just before the match started, something strange happened. Miguel and Kairos stepped into position, but for a moment, time seemed to pause. Miguel's vision blurred slightly. Flashbacks rushed into his head. The school, fight, his hospital bed at the time he almost quit. Sam's kiss, it all crashed into him like a wave. He blinked hard, forcing it away. Focus. Breathe. Control. The referee raised his hand. Sam leaned forward in her seat. Johnny clenched his fists. Daniel whispered, "Trust your instincts." And then, "Begin." The bell rang. Miguel took a deep breath, stepped forward, and the fight began. But what no one knew, what no one could predict, was that this wasn't going to be a normal match. This wasn't just Miguel versus Cobra Kai. It was Miguel versus everything holding him back, and it was only getting started. It wasn't planned. It wasn't some grand romantic moment with music and perfect timing. No. It was raw, messy, and real. That kiss just minutes before the final match wasn't supposed to happen. But when Sam stepped into that room and saw Miguel alone, staring at the mat like it held all the weight of the world, something broke inside her. Not in a painful way, but in the way a dam breaks after holding back too much for too long. She didn't say much. Miguel barely spoke. Their eyes met, and that silence was louder than any crowd. Then, without thinking, she stepped forward and kissed him. It only lasted seconds. But it changed everything. Now, as Miguel stood face to face with Kairos, that moment burned behind his eyes. And yet, it didn't distract him. It grounded him. It reminded him of who he was. Not just a fighter, not just a student of Johnny or Daniel, but a boy who had fought for what he loved and wasn't afraid to feel. The first round was brutal. Kairos came in fast, his strikes sharp, clean, and precise. He wasn't there to impress. He was there to destroy. His reputation wasn't built on flashy moves. It was built on breaking down opponents piece by piece like a machine that never tired. And now, he was doing the same to Miguel. Miguel blocked, countered, moved, but it wasn't enough. He got hit, hard. A spinning back kick sent him tumbling to the floor. The crowd gasped. Johnny shouted from the corner. Sam stood frozen, her nails digging into the railing. The referee counted. 1, 2, 3. Miguel blinked, spit blood, and slowly rose to his knees. His head ached. His ribs burned. But somewhere in that pain he found focus. He looked up, and there she was, Sam, standing, watching, believing. He stood. The crowd roared. In the second round, something shifted. Miguel didn't fight harder. He fought smarter. He began to read Kairos's patterns, started using his speed, his instinct. He remembered Johnny's words. Fight with heart, not anger. He remembered Daniel's. Let your opponent's strength become their weakness. Miguel danced, dodged, blocked, struck back. His strikes started landing. Not many, but enough to show he was still in this. Kairos faltered for just a second, and in that second, Miguel swept his leg. The Cobra Kai fighter hit the ground. The score evened. Sam exhaled. A breath she didn't know she was holding. Johnny and Daniel exchanged a rare look. Half surprise, half pride. But deep down, everyone knew this match wasn't just about points anymore. It was personal. Between rounds, Miguel returned to his corner, breathing heavy, sweat pouring down his back. Johnny leaned in close. What happened out there? You looked like you were going to black out. Miguel shook his head. I was in my head, but I'm here now. Johnny nodded. Good. Don't lose that fire. You've already won one battle tonight. Miguel didn't reply. He didn't need to. He looked back to the stands, back to Sam, and she smiled. It wasn't a wide grin or some cheesy cheerleader moment. It was small, soft, real, and it told Miguel everything he needed to know. He wasn't fighting alone. He never had been. As the third and final round began, the stadium held its breath. 2 fighters, 1 champion. Everything was on the line, but Miguel Diaz was ready. Not just because of his training, not just because of Johnny or Daniel or the years he spent becoming stronger. He was ready because someone believed in him. Not for what he could do on the mat, but for who he was outside it. And that kiss, it didn't weaken him. It gave him purpose. The bell rang for the final round, but to Miguel it sounded like something more than a signal. It felt like a call, a moment bigger than any fight he'd ever been in, and not just for him, for everyone. Watching, for Sam, for Johnny, for Daniel. It was clear. This wasn't just another tournament. It was a reckoning. Miguel and Kairos stepped forward. No more smiles. No more bows. This wasn't about respect anymore. It was survival. Kairos struck first, fast, low, brutal. Miguel blocked, then rolled. The clash echoed through the arena, their moves like poetry and thunder at once. Every hit carried weight, every dodge had desperation behind it. But Miguel had something Kairos didn't. He had clarity. That kiss. That moment with Sam. It stripped away the noise, the doubt, the fear. For the first time in a long time, Miguel wasn't trying to prove anything. He was simply being who he was. A fighter, a believer, someone who fought not for trophies, but for the people who mattered. Kairos didn't understand that. He fought like he had something to destroy. But Miguel? He fought like he had something to protect. Midway through the round, Kairos landed a brutal knee to Miguel's side. The sound made the crowd wince. Miguel stumbled. Sam stood up so fast her chair clattered backward. Johnny looked ready to leap into the ring. Daniel's fists clenched tight, but Miguel didn't fall. He stood, gasping, but steady. And then something strange happened. He smiled. Not big, just a flicker. Kairos blinked, caught off guard for the first time. Miguel raised his fists again and said something only the cameras caught. "Is that all you've got?" And with that, the match flipped. Miguel ducked a punch, twisted under Kairos's guard, and countered with a Miyagi-Do sweep. Kairos hit the mat hard. Miguel backed off, let him stand. No cheap moves, no tricks. This wasn't about domination. It was about heart. The fight raged on, the seconds bleeding away. Strike, dodge, block, strike. The ref's voice called time warnings, but neither fighter heard him. They were locked in, locked on. This was their world now. With 10 seconds left, it was tied. Then Kairos charged in for a final blow, desperate, wild, and reckless. Miguel ducked low, spun around, and drove his final kick straight into Kairos's chest. Time froze. Kairos fell. The buzzer blared. The crowd erupted. Miguel stood there, chest heaving, eyes wide, and just like that, it was over. The referee raised his hand. Winner, Miguel Diaz. But Miguel didn't raise his arms, he didn't jump, he turned slowly and looked up into the stands. Sam was already running. Before he could even process the win, she was in front of him, wrapping her arms around his sweaty shoulders, tears shining in her eyes. "You did it," she whispered. Miguel shook his head. "No, we did." Johnny and Daniel stood at the edge of the mat. For once, no tension between them. Just pride, just silence, just peace. Tori watched from a distance, then turned and walked away. No drama, just understanding. The arena didn't quiet down for a long time, but in the middle of it all, Miguel and Sam stayed locked in their own world. That kiss had started something, but this moment, this victory, it sealed it. Because sometimes, the biggest battles aren't won with punches or kicks, they're won with heart. And Miguel Diaz had just proven his was stronger than ever.